The interview had been calm, professional, the kind of polished political discussion that plays out on screens every day. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett sat poised under the bright studio lights, her voice steady, her words sharp as she spoke about accountability and the quiet privileges of power. "We can't keep pretending," she said, leaning forward slightly, "that some people haven't benefited from silence. When power protects the comfortable and punishes the outspoken, that's not just unfair. That's a problem." The host, a seasoned journalist used to navigating tense moments, opened his mouth to respond, but before a single word could leave his lips, a voice cut through the air like a blade. "Excuse me. Stop right there." The studio froze. It wasn't the host. It wasn't Jasmine. The voice came from off-camera, firm, deliberate, and unmistakably commanding. Producers in the control booth leaned forward in unison. Cameramen swiveled their heads. Even the usually unflappable floor crew stood still, clipboards forgotten in their hands. Jasmine's eyes narrowed. She turned slowly toward the sound, and then, from behind the thick black sound curtains, a figure emerged. Heels clicked against the polished floor with measured precision. Melania Trump stepped into the light, dressed in a crisp white pantsuit, her expression composed but unreadable. She walked forward like she belonged there, like the stage had been waiting for her all along. Every eye followed her. This wasn't a scheduled appearance. This wasn't a cameo. This was an interruption. The host cleared his throat, visibly thrown. Mrs. Trump, you're not on the schedule today." Melania didn't flinch. "No, I'm not, but I was nearby, and I heard something I couldn't let pass." Jasmine turned her chair fully toward the former First Lady, her jaw tight, but her voice calm. "And what exactly was that?" Melania stepped closer, hands lightly clasped in front of her. "You said silence protects power, that people like me benefited from it. That's not fair." The studio went dead silent. Only the low hum of lights and the faint buzz of live mics filled the air. Jasmine didn't blink. "What I said was about systems," she replied slowly, deliberately. "About how silence, especially from those with the biggest platforms, becomes a kind of currency. A shield. A choice." Melania's voice stayed soft, but there was steel beneath it. "You speak as if I chose comfort. You don't know what I chose. You don't know what I gave up." Jasmine leaned in, just slightly. "Maybe I don't. But I do know this. When you stand next to the most powerful man in the world and say nothing while children are taken from their parents, while women are mocked, while veterans are insulted, while a black president's citizenship is questioned, silence stops being neutral. It becomes a vote." The host tried to jump in. "Ladies, perhaps we—" Neither woman looked at him. Jasmine continued, her voice steady, unshaken. "I've spent my life being told I talk too much, that I'm too loud, too emotional, too black, too woman. But I'm still here. And I don't speak just for me. I speak for every person who was told to smile, stay quiet, and wait their turn while the world burned around them." Melania straightened. "I did what I thought was right, and so am I," Jasmine said, firm, final. The tension wasn't awkward anymore. It was electric. Two women, from worlds light years apart, now stood face to face on live television, unscripted, unrehearsed, and unafraid. The crew didn't move. The control room didn't cut to commercial. This wasn't a segment anymore. This was a moment. Jasmine didn't stand. She didn't need to. She sat perfectly still, her gaze locked on Melania, calm but unyielding, silently daring her to come closer. The host tried again. "Perhaps we should—" Jasmine raised one hand, silencing him without breaking eye contact. "I'm not being spoken over today," she said, her voice clear, unshaken. "Not by a man. And certainly not by you, Mrs. Trump." Melania arched an eyebrow but didn't retreat. "I didn't come here to argue. I came because what you said was unfair. I have the right to respond." Jasmine offered a tight, unimpressed smile. "Unfair? That's rich, coming from someone who spent 4 years in the most privileged seat in the world." And said almost nothing. "I spoke when it mattered," Melania replied. "Really?" Jasmine tilted her head. "When was that? When families were being separated at the border? When your husband called women nasty, mocked Gold Star families, and pushed birtherism?"
"Tell me, Mrs. Trump, how many right moments did you let slip by?"
The silence that followed was heavy, thick, alive. This wasn't just a clash of personalities. This was a collision of histories, of power, of race, of silence. Melania's fingers tightened slightly, but her face stayed calm. You don't know what I went through. I was attacked no matter what I did. For my accent, my past, my choices. Jasmine stood, slowly, deliberately. And I'm not saying that was right. But when you have a platform that big, silence isn't protection. It's participation. She took one step forward, not aggressive, just certain. I grew up in a country where people like me were told to stay in our lane, to wait our turn, to not make waves. And I didn't listen. I ran for office. I speak every day for people who are still waiting, still ignored, still erased. Now Melania stood too. They were only a few feet apart, separated by more than space. You talk about noise, Melania said, her voice measured. But sometimes noise is just noise. People shout so much, no one listens anymore. No, Jasmine shot back. People shout because they've been ignored for centuries. We don't get the luxury of waiting for the perfect moment. We speak or we disappear. A beat. Melania glanced toward the crew, maybe looking for an ally, a signal, anything. But no one moved. I didn't come here to be attacked, she said finally. And I didn't come here to be interrupted, Jasmine replied, calm as ever. But here we are. It wasn't loud. It wasn't chaotic. It was quiet confrontation. The kind that cuts deeper than screaming ever could. Melania had walked in expecting to defend her silence. She hadn't expected someone who refused to let it stand. I represent people who don't get second chances. Jasmine continued, her voice low but unshakable. People who can't walk into rooms like this without being questioned, profiled, or dismissed. So when you step in here uninvited to defend your silence, you're not just talking to me. You're talking to all of them. Melania didn't respond. For the first time she looked uncertain, not defeated, just unsettled. Jasmine returned to her chair, sat down, and turned back to the host. Now, she said evenly, we can continue the interview. Unless Mrs. Trump would like to answer the question I started with. The host blinked, still reeling. Yes. Let's continue. But Melania didn't leave. She stayed, standing at the edge of the set, her earlier confidence replaced by something quieter. More cautious, what was meant to be a correction had become a mirror, and she was finally seeing her reflection. I don't think you understand, Melania said after a long pause. It's easy to speak when the world expects it of you, when the cameras love you. I was judged no matter what I did. Jasmine leaned forward. You were judged, yes, but some of us lose our jobs, our homes, our lives for speaking. You had the White House press corps, a global stage. Do you know what some of us would have given for just 1 minute of that? Melania moved toward an empty chair, resting her hand on its back like she needed something to hold on to. You assume I had control, she said quietly, that I could speak freely. You don't know the walls around me. You're right, Jasmine said. I don't, but I know mine. I know what it's like to walk into a room and have to prove I belong, again and again. Not because of what I've done, but because of who I am. Melania looked back. So now we're comparing pain? No, Jasmine said. We're comparing choices. That landed. Melania stepped back toward center stage, her heels soft against the floor. I tried to focus on kindness, she said. Be best, supporting children, promoting respect. That mattered to me. Jasmine didn't dismiss it. She asked, then why didn't we hear you when families were in cages? When entire communities were insulted? Be best isn't a slogan. It's a responsibility. For a moment, something flickered across Melania's face. Not anger, not guilt, recognition. You don't think I wanted to speak more? She asked, her voice softer now. You don't think I had nights where I screamed inside? Jasmine stood again slowly. Then you understand us. We scream inside every day. When rights are stripped. When voices like mine are drowned out. The difference is, we don't get to stay quiet. Melania didn't argue. She met Jasmine's eyes. Every time you chose silence, it spoke for you. Silence was easier, Jasmine said, stepping closer. I get it, but it comes at a cost, and the people paying that cost aren't dining with presidents. They're in detention centers, in underfunded schools, on the streets. The studio fell hushed. Even the cameras seemed to quiet. Melania spoke, barely above a whisper. You think I didn't carry that? Jasmine's voice softened, not with pity, but with truth. Then say it. Say it mattered. Say it now. Say it louder than you ever did before. Melania's composure cracked just slightly. I regret some things, she said. I should have said more. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't redemption, but it was something. Jasmine nodded, slow and deliberate. Thank you. That's a start. No one clapped. No one cheered. The room just listened, and in that silence, something shifted. Melania sat down across from Jasmine, uninvited, but no longer interrupting. I was raised to be quiet, she said, to keep things inside. Speaking too loudly was dangerous, and when I entered that world, I thought silence would keep me safe. Jasmine nodded. Safety for one can be danger for many. When you're that close to power, your silence builds walls, and the rest of us have to climb them just to be seen. Melania looked down, then back up. There were nights I lay awake wondering if people thought I didn't care. They didn't misunderstand you, Jasmine said. They couldn't understand you. Because you didn't let them, Melania exhaled, slow and shaky. I thought I was protecting myself. But maybe I was just protecting a world that didn't want the truth. And that world still exists, Jasmine said. But every time someone like you speaks, really speaks, you tear a brick out of it. You make space for someone else to breathe. Melania looked at her, not as a rival, not as a symbol, just as a woman. And you? She asked. How do you keep speaking when they try to silence you? Jasmine didn't hesitate. Silence was never an option. I speak or I vanish, and I'm not going anywhere. They sat there. 2 women, 2 lives, 2 truths. Not enemies, not friends, just present. Maybe it's not too late, Melania said quietly. Jasmine met her gaze. It never is. If you're willing to do more than talk. The cameras rolled. The lights hummed. But the moment didn't feel like television anymore. It felt like truth. Raw, unfiltered, unplanned, and in a world of sound bites and spin, that was revolutionary.